Welcome back. Now let's get our teeth into today's program, and we're going to begin by looking at the road to economic recovery. You might say that too much talk is going on about the economy, but we don't have a choice. We need to talk about it because we are in dire straits. Nigerians are having problems putting food on the table. They're losing their jobs. A lot is happening, so we can't talk about this too much. The National Economic Council has endorsed the sale of some national assets in order for the country to recover from its present economic recession. The NEC made its position known after a meeting on Thursday in Abuja. The Senate President has recommended the sale of some national assets and the utilization of the proceeds therefrom for infrastructure development. He also said that this will calm investors, discourage currency speculation, and stabilize the economy. He also urged President Buhari's executive to, among other things, engage in meaningful dialogue with those aggrieved in the Niger Delta. Now, we have a panel in the House. We have a full House, actually, and they're going to help us look at the road that we're on towards recovery from this recession in which we find ourselves. It's my pleasure to welcome from my left, Tony Nachata, a veteran banker. Good morning.
Good morning.
Mr. Joe Femi Dagunro, an economist.
Thank you. Good morning.
And on my right, the lady is Tosin Olasende, and also an economist. And we have a public affairs analyst, Chief Lucky Chukwu.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much for joining us.
It looks like we have a blend of from young to the old. So everybody's represented.
You say that.
I said that. Because it looks like we're going to be looking at history and what we're going to in the future.
Current affairs.
We're on the road. So we're on the march towards recovery. Now, the latest thing in this basket we're talking about now, the road to recovery. The latest suggestion, Tony, is the sale of our Commonwealth. Some people have said, yes, it's a good idea. Others have said, no, we can't do that because it is the same people who can afford to buy those things. And this, we're talking about our Commonwealth. What are your thoughts about sale of our Commonwealth?
Thank you, Elero. First is that the options Nigeria has are perhaps not so many. Out of our own making,
Thanks for busting our bubble.
We have constricted our maneuverability. The options are not so many. The time we have is pretty short. But going to sell assets in order to pay for infrastructure, theoretically, is sound, is good. But we don't have a history of institutional reform. You know, I noticed we asked for African Finance Corporation and LNG. These are the only survivors of the past 30 years of boom and the cycles. I am not so much disposed to that option. I believe we can go there only after we've exercised all the other options. For instance, what are we doing to move the agricultural production index? What are we doing to move the mining production index? What are we doing, you know, in other sectors? Because critical emergency thinking seems to be absent in what we're doing. I don't get a sense of urgency that we have substantial unrest in our rural communities, in our suburban communities. They cannot wait for this long sale. Why didn't we apply funds for infrastructure development when Brent crude was selling at $110 a barrel? And there was enough production from the Niger Delta. So it's a bit worrisome that mind you, African Finance Corporation just came in about 7-10 years ago. The LNG has been managed by multinationals fairly proficiently. It seems to me to be a knee-jerk reaction. Incidentally, we did something different. Our response to this situation in Anambra is pretty different. We went in for fiscal stimulus, homegrown, because we realized that it is not one option. The constituency has asked for tax relief for the vulnerables, the hawkers, the wheelbarrows, the keke, Okada. We have given them back their levies and their taxes. So disposable income at that level is almost available again. We have put money into agriculture in Anambra State.
Tony, economics become a bit confusing at a point. Whereas at the center, the government is thinking about taxing us a bit more. You are saying that you're giving people tax relief.
Excuse me, Tony. Let's look at it this way. What Tony is saying is relevant because see, you have to adopt a particular option that suits your state. You know, if Anambra State can afford to have these kind of options that we are talking about, that is why they have their own, they can have their own stability pact, stability ideas to stabilize their state. Every state has the right to say, look, this goes well for my state. Lagos State perhaps is doing something else, or your state perhaps, or Kaduna State, or, you know, what we are looking at here is that, you know, like Tony said, I think what is at the back of the mind of Nigerian citizens is the fact that, look, we sold Nigeria Airways. What happened? We sold that. We sold this. You brought in somebody to say, okay, let's do partnership with Nigeria. Let's start with the aviation. And then after a while, the guy left this country and started messing us up, talking a lot of nonsense about Nigeria. Right. Whoever brought this guy, nobody knows. Now, you gave it to a Nigerian to manage or to buy over. The Nigerian guy bought the thing and killed it. Put it that way. And there are so many other things that are going on. People are just scared. And say, look, if you continue to sell all these things, the NLG is it's not 100% federal government. Let's not forget that. So, I mean, when you say you are selling part of your shares. So it's not as if you're part of your shares. So the federal government is only going to sell this part of our shares, not just the whole thing. So we have to get that clear. You see, and then what we have to realize is this. What I think the federal government should make clear to people is this. What are the immediate programs, infrastructural programs you want to put in place? If you say you want to sell, let us know what are the infrastructural programs you sell. We want short-term, immediate ones, short-term, mid-term, and long-term. You see, this is confusing in the sense that when you just say you want to spend money on infrastructure, and people don't know what is all this infrastructure we're talking about. You know, so it is just, you know, when a country goes with an expansionary budget, it is a fact that you have to borrow money. And because we don't even have that money. When we look back 30 years, 40 years, that means you expect Buhari to begin to probe every other past government, which this guy said he's not going to do. So what I'm thinking we should do, if the federal government have already decided that they are going to, or they have endorsed it, we will only be talking and talking and talking, and possibly they will listen to some of these advices or some of these discussions that we are having. What I think the Nigerian people want to know, who are the people to buy? Are they competent to buy? Do they have the money to buy? Because it is not when you sell it, they now use your product as collateral to start looking for money. Do they have the money right now? You see, it is not. You see, if they don't have the money, you see what happened to the NITEL? What happened to NITEL? What happened to PSN? And when you see, people just run around when they have this thing at hand.
Paper mills.
Yes. So now, Ajakuta is there. You know, they even came with a funny name. They said, look, this guy is the same name of Indian guy who is the Baba of metal industry. And the guy came and said, no, that's not my name. And you know, you sold something to some company, they said this company is not even in existence in Germany. So these are not just what we have to do. We have to do due diligence. We have to know the worth of our so-called Commonwealth, and we have to know what are we using them for. Unless that, you know, it is not a bad thing. We are not at that position like Greece, for instance. We are not already bankrupt. We are to a certain extent. What I don't think we should do, how do you sell those things and begin to pay debts with it, and begin to pay salaries with it? Then it makes no sense.
Okay. Chief, if we can just step back a bit, they mentioned some of the assets that had been sold. Yes. They mentioned NITEL, Airways, NEPA, PHCN. But in your mind, what are you seeing?
It's very simple. Nigeria is a country of paradoxes. A country of very few rich by the very few rich and for the very few rich. Nigeria is a country where sustainable policies are abnormal. And then policy somersault has become a tradition. It is very unfortunate. Any of our leaders that have contemplated selling the oil assets, the main economic state of the country for now, that is sustaining every person, you and I, is irrational, wicked.